in the space of what already is, notice the space. This voice appears and begins to use a language we're all very familiar with, and starts to use that language to articulate concepts and ideas and words, and in so doing begins to use that language to point to a way in which we can both land here and realize we've been here all along. So in between the application of these words and concepts and thoughts are spaces that frame the language used to point to the same space. Now if we apply the word awareness, there will be a noticing, or the attention will direct itself to an idea, a concept, or what seems at first an object called awareness. So notice awareness. Notice being aware. And as the voice continues to talk, notice that awareness is aware of the voice. So awareness is present to the voice, and awareness is present to the absence of the voice. In fact, try to be unaware. And it takes no time nor distance for the realization that awareness is one word we use to describe the undivided, unbreakable experience of what is. So let's use some other words. All of us will no doubt have spent much of our day in the dream of doing. We have been here and been there. We have done this and done that. We have moved about a world of different objects, people, places and things. And we have had preferences for some of those things. Some of them we found to be experiences that were pleasurable or that we liked, and some were perhaps more challenging or brought us into contact with the absence of being in control of the situation. Now these aren't necessarily huge problems. They may just be the appearance of outcomes of situations or expectations that didn't arise in the way we previously imagined they might. And so the mind, the activities of thinking, sensing and perceiving, had to recalibrate or modulate itself to adapt to new information appearing through the senses. And in this way, we see ourselves as a distinct entity, a person, moving around a world in a thing we call our life, relating to objects, people, places, things, time, spaces, that describe a narrative or a story in a framework we call time, daylight period, or 24-hour period. And we usually take this day in our life to be happening to me as a person. Most of us do. All of us more or less live in this way. Some of us, of course, aren't at liberty, and some of us have access to more liberty than perhaps we might. But who's to say, who's to judge? Apart from judges. But here we need none of this, none of that. We need only what is as it is. So, we're present now simply to the awareness of a voice describing all that's been described. Resting, arriving here from a day of apparently being there, there and there, and then here and there and there. Yet really when we look, we've only ever been here. And some of us will have closed our eyes and will be sitting in a kind of meditative position or stance, using this voice and the spaces and the content in order to either or both land here, arrive here, in a somewhat meditative way. And some of us will simply be calmly resting in the luminous presence of our being, taking in what is being said, taking in the spaces. Some of us may be resting or abiding and having no thought about any of this. And in the spaces, the stillness that becomes the dominant experience allows us to arrive after the last phrase or sentence or pointer that was expressed. Perhaps we drift off into thought, or perhaps we arrive at the end of the statement to having no thought. And still, we slowly, slowly, slowly land or arrive or recognize being here as the dominant expression of this gathering. How lovely. Here we are. And so here we have nothing to prove, there's nothing to do to better know here. There's no practice we need. We don't need our labels, our roles, our diagnoses, our wounds, our wonders. We don't even need to be awesome. Finally, we don't even need to be me. Here is happening without me. Ask yourself, inquire, has the accumulative effort of everything my entire life has embodied enabled me to be the knower of this moment, or these moments, or the knower of being here? Has every effort I've made in my decades of life done anything for this to be known here? Or is here happening gracefully, mercifully, as an offering the knowing, experiencing of reality just as it is, and there's an apparent contracted sense of energy that I usually add words to and call me, that is seeming to know an experience that's happening. This objective experience. But it's only objective in the relative sense. Relatively speaking, I seem to be a person logging into an online gathering. Functions of the senses are engaged, seeming listening, seeming seeing. Even with our eyes closed, we can still see the inside of our eyelids, though we like to think we see nothing. But the reducing down from these senses, from the activities of the day, from the people, places and things, allows us, as the voice cycles round another loop of talking, to embody the ground of simply being, to rest or abide with what is. I have no feeling or thought about what is. Who cares? There's nothing to control here, no one to control. No one here called me to lose control. Nothing to get, nothing to lose. No one to get it, no one to lose it. Just radically simple, profoundly ordinary isness. Energy arising out of a vast, circumferenceless and centerless nothing, yet still seeming to be an experience of something. But there's no objects here. There is a staccato voice, stuttering words into the beingness, seemingly facilitating, using language to point the character. We know to have the voice, we usually know to have the voice, is perhaps the most irrelevant. The words themselves, helpful, though they also obscure that which they point to, but point to they do. So let's not get trapped at the level of the words, and let's be the knower of the experience they're pointing to. This, the isness business. See all of the activity of the day, of yesterday, of last week, of last year, of the last decade, of our 20s, of our teenage years, of our home life as small children. All of it has been to bring about experiences of happiness. Our lives have been increasingly filled with things, not just possessions, but relationships, opinions, attitudes, plans and programs for where happiness may be found. Filled with losses and loves, lamenting, and larger than life experiences that we've hoped to recapture. or disgusting experiences we've hoped to never repeat again or escape. We would all rather, in the dreamt world, collect enjoyable and pleasurable experiences, but damn it all, have we not inadvertently and with the best intention still been the knower of difficult, complex, and all too frequently overwhelming experiences? And have we not then gone on to project our frustration into the world of forms, particularly towards people that become mirrors for these experiences? If we do not transform our pain, we will transmit it. But that dream doesn't matter here. We are reducing and have reduced from the world of doing, from the story of the me, attempting to, with every effort and every good intention, take itself beyond itself, and the predicament of trying to actualize a sensed separate self is that in order for self-actualization to be the knowing, dominating experience, or for happiness of an enduring nature to be recognized as our true nature, the personality that would bring this experience about by works alone will not, cannot be present for the experience to be known. Because the personality, the mask that we've been trying to perfect with every activity covers up the face of our pure being, of our true self, and then attempts to bring about the experience of the true self, of our true nature, or happiness, peace. By works, by evidencing its own validity and its own surety, to itself, the only person, every effort to impress others seeks to please is the same personality attempting to impress others. It is not simply that we like others when they are impressed by something we claim we have done, but we like ourselves because they respond well to what we have done. This is clearly a failed program for happiness, and it's doomed to failure. The personality, the persona, the mask of imperfection, the personhood covering over the wholeness, the completeness, the enoughness of our true self, situ, the no self, situ. Is an illusory mask, is a false mask. Find it now. Try and find your personality. Try and find your personality without words, without thoughts. Locate personality. People say, I have an addictive personality. The addiction, the one addiction, everyone experiences, that no one, not one person, is immune from, is the addiction or the attachment to the mask itself and all other objects of fixation and fascination belong in the plans and programs inside of wearing the mask. We put the mask of our personality on and leave the house during the day and seek in a world of objects and interchangeable forms that we have preferences for because they validate whether the performance is going well or not, or whether we can feel good about our self or not. But look here, without words, without thoughts, without using the thinking mind and referring to memory, using remembered experiences. Thought, current thought, is always and only based on previous experience. The recalling of objects and events in order to master the mask wearing of the moment. In this way we waste our time, we waste here with our fixation on being or getting there. See through this rapacious, fixating dance. If we don't think about it, is there anything wrong with right now? Don't use the mind to explore the present. Be the present. Explore nothing. Literally, explore nothingness. Explore nothingness. The language of God is stillness. Silence is the narrative. Silence points to itself, rests in itself. Stillness is that in which thoughts appear and disappear, feelings appear and disappear. Sensations in the body or the sense of the situation or environment appear and disappear. And the conditioned and programmed screen of perception modulates and assesses preference of like and dislike, like and dislike. How tedious. And this isness, this nowness, this presence is not an intellectual matter, is not difficult. How difficult is now or being here? It's only in the personality, the mask, where the thought arises, meditation's too difficult, I can't do it. No. Asking the thinking mind to not think is like asking the sky to not be a sky. Be the sky. develop and invest in the relationship with simply being. Human beings are often captivated by being. We go to a beautiful, natural place and being happens to us. We visit the Grand Canyon or the top of Canary Wharf or the Millennium Wheel or Rishikesh in North India or the ocean or a cat or a cockatoo or a beautiful meal. And the input into the senses of awe and wonder-inducing objects captivates the attention, and we fall out of thinking. How frequently at these times do we all say, I don't know what to say? And grief and loss, even that grief and loss of others, brings us into contact with presence too, where the thinking mind is not the dominant experience, just as it should be, or should not be. This is being. Being happens to us. All too frequently we mistake doing being for being. So we watch TV, we eat food unnecessarily, we become fixated on the feelings that are brought about by attachments to things that stimulate the body, substances, images, experiences. So there is being as it happens to us, and we recognize it. It is our natural state. We have always been being. Being is an unending, indivisible, constant thread throughout our life. Our usual word for being is I. But even the I creates an object with which, if we over-identify, we lose the direct present experience of being itself. And we exhaust ourselves in a world of doing and accumulation and stimulation and collection of things, experiences, and become so exhausted and tired trying to keep up with something we don't even know what it is when we really look. That we use the doing of being as temporary pockets of rest and escape, which really, when we look deeper, these are just more forms of further stimulation. Yet here, nothing is required of us, nothing is asked of us, nothing is missing. You don't even need to be you here. Here is you. You are not here. Here is here. And this here is not the same as the last time I said here. But we can find no line to divide here from here, because here is undivided. It is not two things divided. It is one undivided.